What are you thinking about this, Adi? Does this make sense? Am I being too harsh on Western psychoanalysis and Western psychotherapy?
I can't speak on Western psychotherapy because as much as my girlfriend wants me to go, I haven't gone. I will eventually. But I like Western science because it's very empirically driven.
Yes.
Right? But I love Eastern philosophy as well because it gets into the regions that no one else was brave enough to
They
find.
go where
So-
eagles dare.
Yeah, so this is like the interesting contention when you try to bring them together.
Yeah.
Right? Which is that like Western science can only go so far because they're looking at everything empirically.
Yes.
Whereas, I don't know, it's kind of like what you were saying on the last episode, like sometimes you got to read one story to realize that that story ain't shit, but you wouldn't be where you are without having learned that story.
Right. And
Right?
I think the wisdom of the rishis comes from introspection and intuition, right? But it's not just that, right? They were also looking at the world around them too,
They're artists,
right?
like
They're
you were
artists,
saying.
right?
They're artists.
And
So that's what's kind of missing because there's an element of artistry required of the receiver and of the giver of that to be able to kind of imagine or use your, I want to use the word imagination because it is linked to that, but like to be able to even perceive or imagine what a next life or talking about something like that is, right?
Yeah.
But Western science it can't go down that road because it won't be Western science anymore. So it's an interesting relationship.
It's not bound by the rules of Western science, but it doesn't reject the methodologies of it either, right? There is a level of empiricism too, right, that occurs here. And you see that play out because you see the benefits of doing pranayama, right?
Absolutely.
The proof is in the pudding there, right?
Yeah.
You do see instances, there have been just so many instances throughout history of people visibly being the incarnation of somebody else and being able to recite off facts from somebody else's life, from somebody else's family, right? And granted, these are things that are anecdotal, right? And that's why it's hard. They don't necessarily always pass the test of Western empirical thinking, right? And look, we can't think about this totally to shit on Western empirical thinking, Western scientific thinking. And this is something that we've been talking about in terms of how do we construct the dharma of the future. How do we pursue dharmic futurism? Is we have to get into the game now. And so many Indians, so many Hindus are STEM obsessed people. They're versed in the natural sciences. We need to start taking those things, applying them, or seeing how they interact with dharmic thinking as we know it, right? Of our various
practice.
And dharmic practice, right?
Yeah.
How it interacts with sadhana, right? How it validates or invalidates certain things, and how we refine the process to make it more effective, more potent, more transformative, more liberatory.
On the flip side of that, I think also, and this is the hard bit, I think that's the easier bit.
Yeah.
The hard bit is getting Western science, regardless of who the player is.
Yeah.
But getting Western science to just allow, because I think so many people don't realize what these scriptures pack because they get lost when they hear a word.
Of course.
That is reincarnation.
Yeah.
They're like, what's your evidence for that?
know.
And it's like, it takes a certain level of, it's not even compartmentalization. It's just, it takes a certain level of understanding to even know how to balance these things, right?
Yeah, I mean, the problem for them is that science has become a religion, right? And
100%.
thus they're actually limiting their sense of inquiry or the spirit of inquiry when they see a word that scares them off. They're like, well, I can't do that. It's the Pied Piper is going to lead me away from, quote, science, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like Christians were like, don't do yoga. And, there is a validity there, right? It will take you off the path of Christianity, actually, to do yoga. Likewise, with science, Western science, it might take you into a more spiritual, metaphysical way of engaging reality.
And I think it should be open to engaging with it. It doesn't have to believe it.
Yes.
But like it should remind itself that Isaac Newton was also an alchemist.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Like there's a history of these two things blending with one another and in pursuit of the same thing, right? Which is truth. Yeah. And I think Western science and Eastern philosophy have done insane amounts of contributions.
Absolutely, dude.
But they need to learn to come together.
They're both ways of knowing.
There's some little Subramaniam out there who's listening to this.
Some little Ramanujan.
Yeah, who's going to bridge the gap for all of us later on.
Exactly. We're looking at you, buddy. Okay, I'm a comedian. He's a filmmaker. We're just here to learn. We're waiting for the big guru to come out and bridge this gap for us with some finality. But to me, again, this is dharmic futurism. This is what we have to do. And look, we are seeing it on the other side. Like, people are getting mad. I saw another article, and I don't want to keep harping on the appropriation conversation, but somebody else got mad because in Scientific American, they had a headline, which was like, here's how cardiac coherence breathing can help longevity or whatever it was, right? And a bunch of Indians were like, hey, it's called adulam vilam matat bitch. Hey, benchod. Why are these idiots? They're stealing our practice. And I was like, okay, could be annoying. I clicked open the article. It gave due credit to pranayama, to Eastern breathing practices.
Now we're getting into a human problem of people reading headlines and not clicking open the
Exactly.
articles.
It's like people just want to be mad. You know what I mean? And it's like people were on Twitter too much, and I'm as much guilty of this as anybody.
But you open up the links.
I open up the links.
At least you open up the links.
Because I was like, well, let me just click so I can hate it better, you know? But then I saw it and I was like, no more hatred, you know? Yeah. It's like they do give due credit, but the fact is that they're now doing the hard work, or they're now doing the work of validating certain things through Western empirical science. And there is a value to that. And Indians need to be doing that too. It's not that we don't have our own traditions of science anyway, right? It just operates differently. Operates according to a whole different grammar and vernacular than it does over here. But again, none of this stuff has ever been stuff that's like, okay, done. No more thinking about this, right? And we know that from this book. This is a radical text that is embraced by Hindus far and wide. And it's something that's destroying and laying waste previous conceptions of how we perceive the divine and how we perceive reality and ourselves and the ideas of gods and things like that, right? It cuts the notions of our traditional divinities down quite a notch. You know what I mean? And that's the spirit that we have to continue to pursue this with. Dharma is a science. Okay, that's what dharmic thinking is, a scientific thinking, right? It is the spirit of inquiry, right? The difference between that and Western science is that it's about us looking within.
Yeah,
it's about contemplation and meditation, and those are get in the game, guys. Get in the game. Stop whining. I think that's a good place to stop. Stop whining.
Stop whining.
Stop whining. Hit that subscribe button below. Make a comment, even if you want to be a hater, but preferably a lover.